using a throwaway because my fiance, ex-fiance, uses Reddit and I don't want her to find this. So I, 25, male, have been with Emily, 24, female, for 2 years. She and I met through friends who set us up on a blind date and we got along great. We started dating soon and for a year we've been living together as well. I'm a software developer and have a decent income, so I'm the one who contributes more to the relationship, money-wise. Emily used to work in sales, but she's between jobs right now since she resigned a couple of weeks ago, so she could go to business school. Her parents are going to pay for it, so I'm not worried about that. But since we're living together, I'm going to have to take over the household expenses entirely. The only thing she can pay for is gas and groceries as of now, but not for long, according to what she told me. I was prepared to do all of that because I knew that once she was back on her feet, we would go back to splitting everything. And also, I loved her and trusted her. So I didn't mind this arrangement. I had been planning to propose for a really long time because she and I were pretty much soulmates, or so I thought. And I wanted to get married to her as soon as I could. I finally bought a ring and popped the question a week ago, and she said yes. We were happy for a few days and started planning for the engagement party that we were throwing to officially announce our engagement to all our friends and family. We had the party a few days ago, and that's where everything went downhill. Before I talk about what happened, let me just say that this was the first time I saw this side of hers, and I didn't have a clue that Emily could be so materialistic. We'd invited all our friends and loved ones to the party, and I was socializing. After about an hour, Emily dragged me away from a conversation that I was having with my parents and told me that she had something very important to discuss with me. So I followed her into the bedroom where I expected her to talk to me in person, but her entire girl gang was there. For context, Emily and her group of girlfriends have been friends since high school. There are about 6 girls, including Emily, and all of them have pretty much the same annoying personality except her. I don't want to sound like a misogynist, but Emily really isn't anything like her friends, and I don't even know how she fell into that group in the first place. The rest of the girls were spoiled, bratty, and really rich. Emily's parents were never rich. They were comfortable, but not as rich as her friends' parents. But she didn't seem to mind, and from the looks of it, neither did her friends, so it was all cool between them, I suppose. I wasn't aware of the dynamics until recently. Anyway, I was pretty intimidated when I saw them all sitting in the room, and I was already feeling quite uneasy when Emily started telling me that they had been talking and they wanted to go on a bachelorette trip before she got married. I breathed a sigh of relief and told her that I didn't have a problem with that. She was free to do whatever she wanted because even my friends and I would probably have a bachelor party before I got married. Nothing too crazy, obviously, but it was only fair to let her have her fun with her friends too before we got hitched. But apparently that wasn't it. After I said that I was okay with the bachelorette party, she told me that it was great because she wanted me to sponsor it. Not just for her, but for all of our friends. They wanted to go to an exotic beach location for about a week, live in a fancy hotel, and just go crazy. But since she was unemployed right now, she couldn't exactly afford it without completely blowing through her savings. And she couldn't ask her parents to fund that for her either because they were already paying for her to go to business school, and she didn't want to trouble them too much. So she asked me to pay for it and told me that she would return the money as soon as she got a job. All her friends were looking at me, and I felt uncomfortable because I felt like she had put me on the spot by asking me to sponsor her bachelorette trip in front of her friends. I did the math in my head, even though I didn't need to because I already knew that it would be an insanely expensive affair, and that there was no way that I would be able to afford it without digging into my savings. I really didn't want to do that because I didn't think that it was worth it to spend so much money on a trip that I wasn't even going to be on. Even if they invited me to tag along, I don't think I would be willing to pay for all of it. I wasn't being stingy, but I was just thinking about the future, and that sort of money could really come into handy in emergencies. Or maybe just in general. And even though it was uncomfortable, I had to decline, and I told her that I wasn't willing to cover the expenses of their trip. Another reason for this was that it could be a really long time before she saved up enough to pay me back, and I didn't want to get into it because it would be complicated and unnecessary for us to get into such a weird monetary arrangement just before we were about to get married. As soon as I declined, she and her friend started looking at me all weirdly and asked me why she couldn't go on that trip. So I clarified, and I told her that she was free to go on the trip as long as she found a different way to pay for it. But I wouldn't be comfortable spending so much money on a bachelorette trip. So then she reiterated that she was going to pay me back eventually, but I told her that it doesn't matter because until she paid me back, I would still be out a huge amount of money. Since she wanted me to sponsor the trip for all her friends, not just her. And that would be a crazy amount of money which I wasn't ready to spend. So unless she was able to pay for it herself, she could call it off. After saying that, I left the room because I wasn't really comfortable discussing money with her friends sitting by. I thought that she would drop it after I left the room because there were a lot of guests in the house at the time, but she didn't, and she followed me into the living room while still talking about the trip. She was being extremely stubborn and kept saying that she was going to pay me back, but she just needed me to do this for her once and have her back here. She even said that she and her friends had been planning for this for years and she wanted this to happen because she was about to be the first girl in the group to get married and this was supposed to be special for all of them. So I told her that this was supposed to be special for us as well, and if I decided to sponsor the trip for all of them, then I would probably be broke by the time of the wedding and we would have to get married in the courthouse. That wasn't entirely true because my parents were going to cover some of the expenses of the wedding. But she didn't have to know that, and I'd still have to bear the cost of whatever my parents didn't pay for. I just wanted her to stop talking about the trip because it was just an absurd idea and it didn't make any sense to me. She kept arguing with me in hushed tones and none of my arguments seemed to deter her. We were trying to keep it quiet so nobody would be able to overhear us, but both of us were getting agitated and our guests were taking note of that. After some time, I told her that we could put this argument on hold and talk about this once the party was over. But she lost it then and started throwing a full-blown temper tantrum in the middle of the party. She screamed at me and told me that I was being selfish and it was just a trip that I needed to pay for. She said that I earned enough money to be able to afford it, and the only reason that I wasn't agreeing to pay for it was because I was too selfish. She started having a meltdown and told me that she and her friends had always wanted a wonderful bachelorette trip before they got married and went their separate ways. But I was ruining that dream for her by being self-centered and incredibly stingy. By then, I was feeling really upset, so I yelled right back at her and brought up how I had been the one supporting the both of us for the past year because I knew that she couldn't afford to contribute to the expenses on her salary as much as I did. And now, when she was about to go to business school, I was ready to take on the entire responsibility of all the household expenses just so she could have what she wanted. And even after that, if she thought that I was selfish, then maybe she shouldn't even be with me, because I didn't want to be with her anymore after what she just said. She started crying and then ran out of the house, and soon after all the guests started leaving. Her parents apologized to me for her behavior before they left, but the damage was already done. I didn't sleep a wink that night because I kept expecting Emily to call me or text me or something, but she didn't do any of those things. Only the next day did I hear about her, but it wasn't from her. Her parents were the ones who called me and told me to talk to her and bring her back home. They said that there was some strange power dynamic between her and her friends where she was constantly just trying to fit in with them. They did have incidents like this before as well when she was in school, but they figured that she would grow out of it eventually and stop trying to be something that she isn't. Clearly, that hasn't happened. And just because her friends are rich and they had made some stupid plans when they were younger, she felt the need to show them that her life was just as fabulous as theirs and she could totally take them on an all expenses paid trip. Her parents told me that her friends could probably afford to sponsor a bachelorette trip for all 6 of them because their parents had the kind of money that allowed them to do so. But Emily didn't, and neither did any of us. Unfortunately, Emily was too proud to admit it and tell her friends that she couldn't afford a fancy bachelorette trip right now. She just wanted to fit in with her friends. It had always been a thing with her, and unfortunately it had gone way out of hand this time because she had jeopardized our relationship, thanks to her inexplicable need to constantly prove to people that she's rich or whatever. They told me that they had spoken to Emily, but she wasn't ready to apologize because she was still feeling pretty raw from what happened the previous evening, and now they were begging me to talk to her and get her to come back to me because she was living in a hotel right now, and that was something that she would eventually ask them to pay for. She didn't have the money to live in a hotel indefinitely, and her parents were kind of counting on me to take care of her financially while she went to business school and got her degree. So if we broke up, it would mean trouble for Emily and her parents. And besides, her parents thought that it wasn't worth it to let such a petty argument come in the way of our relationship. They said that she wasn't willing to come back to me because of what I said about not wanting to be with her anymore, and she had apparently taken it really hard. They had spoken to her, and she didn't even bring up the other stuff about the trip or whatever. She just seemed really upset about what I said because she felt like breaking up with her was a huge decision, and I just said it without a second thought. And then I didn't even try to follow her or talk to her after that. Of course, she's right about that, but then I was actually expecting her to talk to me, because she was the one who started that fight and lost her temper first. So I don't think it's too crazy for me to want her to come and talk to me and clear the air between us. The fight was kind of her fault because she was being a little cuckoo about the whole trip, and it was extremely entitled of her to believe that not only would I support her until she graduated business school, but I would also give in to any of her whims and fancies just because she wanted me to. I mean, I had a life of my own as well, and my finances didn't just revolve around what she wanted. I had to look out for myself as well because, unlike her, I didn't feel comfortable asking my parents for money, and I didn't want to rely on anybody else. I do want to make things work with her because apart from what happened, Emily has been the best partner I have ever had. And I really want to be with her, but I don't think I did anything wrong on the day of our fight. AITA for saying that I wanted to break up with my girlfriend when she threw a tantrum at our engagement party. Update 1. So I decided to talk to Emily, not because I wanted to apologize or get back together, but because I wanted some clarity on what was going to happen after this. Most of you said that I need to run the other way and break up with her because this was a huge red flag that I just witnessed on the day of the party. And I guess that's true, but I can't let go of this relationship without at least a conversation. I need to know what happened and what went wrong, so at least I'll be able to judge if we can fix it or if I just have to give up. I appreciate everybody who commented with advice, but honestly, nobody knows our relationship better than us, and my gut says that I need to talk to her, so that's what I'm going to do. I sent her a text this morning. It's been around a week since she left, and her parents have been texting me relentlessly, trying to convince me to take her back. She hasn't replied yet, and I had half a mind to go and see her at the hotel that she has been staying in. Her parents told me where she was, so I could go to her if I wanted to meet her in person, but I think that will be taking things too far. It might be a huge, grand, romantic gesture, but if she is still mad at me, then it might just come off as creepy, and I don't want to take that risk, so I'll just stick to texting and waiting for her to reply. I sent her the classic "we need to talk" text, and she probably knows that this conversation is not going to be comfortable or pleasant. Like all couples, Emily and I have also had fights before, but none of this magnitude. None of our fights have ever come to the point of actually breaking up, because we always knew that we wanted to make it work and stay together. This is the first time that either of us has moved out and refused to talk to the other person for more than 2 days. Most of the time, when we would fight, we would make up within the next couple of days, because it's pretty hard to live together and not speak to each other. However, after she left, she didn't try to contact me even once, so I had to be the one to break the ice. I guess the reason that I'm rambling is because I'm nervous about what's going to happen next. She might break up with me or create a situation where I have to leave. And I really don't want that to happen, because even though things are bad right now, she's pretty much the best girlfriend I've ever had, and I love her. Update 2. So Emily finally replied to my text, and I think we're going to have to meet in person if we want to clear the air. She sent me a text in response saying that she wants to make things work, but she read my post here and is probably going to read the update as well, and she didn't like what she saw in the post. By that, she meant that she didn't like the side of hers that came through in the post, and she took full responsibility for it. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it's nice that she accepted her mistake. She told me in the text that she didn't want to discuss this on the phone, but believed that it would be more appropriate for us to meet in person. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to meet for lunch tomorrow. She said that she was going to drive down to my workplace and we can go to a restaurant nearby so I can get back to work as soon as I can, which was really thoughtful of her, and I do appreciate it. But I still don't know if we're going to work things out and stay together or just break up now. She didn't sound too happy in the text. So I don't know what to expect. Her parents have also stopped trying to reach out to me, and I don't think that's a good sign, because I'm pretty sure that it means that they have given up, and if they have given up, it means that they don't want us to get back together, or maybe they just don't care enough about it. Either way, even if we do break up, I think it's better for us to at least meet one last time, talk things through, and then part ways, instead of letting that fight at the party be our last conversation. I think we deserve a better ending, and most of you in this subreddit believe that things should be over between us because her behavior was inexcusable, and I do agree with it. What she did at the party was ridiculously stupid, but at the same time, I don't want to let go, and I would honestly want to work things out and then get married. It sounds stupid, but I know her. And I know that except for the influence of her vapid and stupid friends, she's a really nice person. It's just that she wanted to fit in with the wrong crowd, and that's what made her act out that way. It was the first time that it happened, and I don't think that she would have screamed at me that way had it not been for her friends who put stupid ideas into her head instead of convincing her to do the right thing. And it was kind of her own fault too, for listening to them instead of thinking with her own head. So yes, despite everything that happened, I think that we should stay together. We can get couples counseling, and if it's required, but actively try to sort out the situation instead of just giving up on it. I don't believe in quitting relationships, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I really want to make it work. Update 3. We met today, and unfortunately it's over. I don't know what I was expecting or why I thought anything apart from this was going to happen. I was a fool to believe that we could work this out and still stay together, honestly. She returned the ring and told me that she would come back in a couple of days to grab some of the stuff that she left behind. That's a bit of an understatement because she pretty much left everything behind. I didn't ask where she was going to live now. I'm sure that she has friends and other people who are going to be helping her out. It just sucks that we're not going to be together anymore, and I'm not going to wake up to see her face every single day. I don't like quitting relationships, and this was by far my best relationship, so I'm devastated that it's coming to an end. The conversation that we had wasn't an easy one. She told me that she read my first post here, but didn't go through the updates because she already knew what was happening. More importantly, she couldn't bring herself to read those because reading the original post was hard enough, knowing that this was about her. She said that reading that post and learning how I felt about the situation was very difficult for her because it opened her eyes and made her accept some really difficult truth bombs, that she wasn't doing anything worthwhile with her life and just floating by. She said that she didn't want to rely on me or her parents anymore and actually make something of herself first. She also told me that she appreciated everything that I had done for her and was ready to do for her in the future. It would be weird to thank me, but she really wanted to, and I didn't know how to react to that, so I just smiled. In hindsight, I probably should have just said something. Also, as it turns out, her friends aren't as rabid and mean as I thought they would be, because after the party, they were the ones who told her that she needed to apologize to me and make it right if she wanted to make this relationship work. They told her that she was out of line for whatever she said, and even addressed the financial disparity between her family and theirs. They told her that they wouldn't judge her if she didn't do the same things and were even willing to cover for her and stuff, but she needed to stop letting it become an ego thing and going out of her way to fit in, especially at her age. I must say I wasn't expecting that her friends would pick up on her issues and actually talk to her about it, but I'm happy that they did, and I guess I was wrong about them. Anyway, the bottom line is that the relationship is over, but at least we ended on good terms. We hugged goodbye before we parted ways. I didn't cry when we were together, but as soon as I went back to the office, I had to excuse myself and visit the restroom so I could let my feelings out. I don't know if we're ever going to get back together, but if we do, I hope it's soon, and I hope that when we do, we make it work that time. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.